Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to be looking at Pluto in the 9th house. So this video is for you if you have this particular placement. If you're a cross watcher, welcome as well. Pluto in our natal charts deals with a form of crisis that takes place. It could be a crisis point throughout your life. Maybe some form of traumatic event took place. Maybe it is the area where your power was taken away from you, and then in turn, you are trying to reclaim your power in this particular area. Pluto does deal with power and control, so you might notice yourself trying to control this particular area throughout your life because you're trying to not feel powerless once again. So it is kind of like that pendulum swing. The Plutonian energy goes from this extreme into that extreme, and eventually it neutralizes somewhere in the middle. Pluto is ruled by Scorpio, so Scorpio is known for its extremes. Also, this particular energy is all about the fears, the unconscious fears. You guys might be possessive in this particular area. You guys might be extremely intense in this particular area. That's that whole scorpionic intensity that's taking place. Maybe there's something that you guys discover here. Maybe you guys are obsessed with this particular area and you guys discover something new through your obsession in this particular area. So that's the overall idea with Pluto. Now the 9th house overall is the Sagittarius energy. It is ruled by Jupiter. So the 9th house is all about our higher mind, things that we learn. It's all about travel, long distance travel, going on trips, going maybe on adventures. I do find with the 9th house, if you're not able to travel, it's usually people from abroad coming to you. So in one way, shape, or form, you are learning from other people, maybe learning their belief systems, all about their cultures, how they live, how they think. So that's that whole 9th house energy. Now also another thing that takes place with this energy is a lot of the time this energy goes off and learns something. They go off on some form of adventure. It is usually soul expanding. Also the 9th house is all about purpose. You will see 9th house people always looking to see what is their life purpose or feel like they're here for a bigger purpose, or from a young age you're always kind of focused on this purpose energy. So that's that 9th house energy. It goes off on some form of expedition to learn, to grow, to expand, and then it comes back and teaches that. So when you guys have Pluto going through your 9th house, now Pluto overall is generational. The house is always going to affect you more. So the sign that you have in Pluto is the sign that you guys do share with that particular generation, but the house overall is the house that you guys are transforming through. So you're changing through it. You could also be changing it for the overall family line, the ancestral line, the generational line. You're changing it within the generation, through the generation, and then for future generations to come. You're changing something here. You're destructing it. You're going through that death rebirth process in this particular house. So for you guys, it's in the 9th house. So it's in the house of the higher mind, the philosophies, perhaps even religion. So when you have Pluto in the 9th house, when you guys were growing up, maybe the parents were extremely religious, or maybe they had a very particular belief system that they kind of wanted you to adhere to when you have Pluto in that 9th house. Now keep in mind, the Plutonian energy doesn't necessarily deal with authority in the way that Saturn does, but in a way it is people who do have power over you in one way, shape, or form. So usually when you're growing up, it does start off with the original 2 caregivers, and then it could just kind of play out as a pattern throughout your lives. So for example, these people, obviously not everybody, depends on the rest of the natal chart, but maybe you guys were born into a very, very religious family, and then maybe you had a very religious upbringing, and then in turn maybe you guys were put into a very religious school where there was like a very religious figure there that was kind of teaching you guys and guiding you guys. But it's like through this, you guys were wanting to explore more, you guys were wanting to learn more. A lot of the time the 9th house energy develops its own belief system. So 9th house people, what tends to happen with them is like they are the types of people that can take this thing from this belief system, that thing from that belief system, and kind of compile it all together. Let's say it's from different religions, and you guys kind of create your own belief system. Whether it's religion or spirituality, it's usually something to do with some form of belief system that you guys are breaking through and deconstructing within yourselves. You're going through that intense pendulum swing until you guys neutralize somewhere in the middle. So you guys might find yourselves in these circumstances throughout your life where it's like maybe you have this intense belief, and then you guys might have the opposite intense belief, and then eventually you guys find yourselves somewhere in the middle of that particular belief, and you kind of go through this whole death rebirth process until you guys do neutralize in the middle. That's just how the Scorpionic Plutonian energy works. Now because it is Pluto, this could be something that's happening more so behind the scenes. People might not know this about you. People might not even expect this about you. Like they might not even know that you have been through this intensity. For example, maybe there was like intense like religious upbringing, and to the world maybe you didn't show this, or maybe you guys kind of went through this whole change and catharsis within yourselves, and then eventually likely you came out to talk about that particular thing, because Plutonian energy, Scorpionic energy, never wants to come off weak. They don't want to come off vulnerable. It's very self-preserving. So usually with Scorpio people, like when they're in the thick of something and they're actually going through that particular thing, usually they don't talk about it to other people, because it's like it deals with the ego in the sense where they don't want other people to point things out to them, or they don't want other people to tell them like what the issue is or whatever it is. They want to kind of come to those conclusions on their own. It's just the nature of the energy. So when you have Pluto in that 9th house, you guys could go through a lot of this like change and transformation and just like turbulence in the area of your own religious beliefs or your own spiritual beliefs. There could be a lot of like cognitive dissonance that takes place, where it's like, I don't understand how this thing makes sense, but this other thing makes sense in this particular scripture. So however it manifests, Pluto is really destructing this particular area for you. You guys go through this intense, like almost alchemical transformation. That's kind of how I see Plutonian energy. It's more so happening internally. It's always in the dark too with the Plutonian energy. So you guys might even spend time in the evenings or the nighttime kind of researching these things like intensely to kind of get to the bottom of something. Now, with that being said, Pluto in the 9th house is great for researching and coming to new topics or new belief systems, because it is obsessive, the energy. When something maybe doesn't make sense to you guys can spend a lot of time obsessing over that thing, thinking about it, or it's like, well, why is it done like this? Why is it done like this? You think about it, you think about it, you think about it, and then eventually maybe it comes through as a clear cognizant thought, or even metaphysical, honestly, because it is Plutonian. You guys might see, let's say, eventually the thought process behind something, let's say some form of belief or ritual or whatever it is. So that's the thing with this energy, like you guys are going to be very good at researching things in the 9th house. So it could be anything to do with the occult even, because it is Plutonian. It could be things that are hidden, or you guys can kind of like put things together where you're like, well, I found this piece of information, it was missing in this other thing, and now this contradicts this other belief altogether. That's the whole thing with this energy. What I will say, the 9th house can be a little bit preachy, especially when it's like firm in its beliefs. So after you guys kind of go through this intense process of like just like the death rebirth process of your belief system, whatever the belief system is, when you guys kind of do develop like a concrete belief system, you guys can be very, very passionate about that. You guys can be very, very intense about it as well. When you have Pluto in the 9th house, you might want everybody to listen to your belief system. You might be kind of like a preacher type, or like then in turn, keep in mind like the thing that took place for you guys when you guys were growing up, where maybe someone imposed their belief system on you, you guys might then in turn become that person as well. So keep this in mind. I mean, it's all about how we deliver information, and not to be like overly like intense and like try to get everyone to believe the things that we do believe. But this energy, because it's like, it's Pluto, it's Scorpionic. When Scorpio believes something, they believe it because it's on that intuitive level. It's like with every fiber of their being. This is why the energy is also fixed, because it's like when it believes something, it comes from this like knowingness after having gone through these trials and tribulations to get to that place. So for you guys, it is in that 9th house, the higher minds, the higher learning, the philosophies, perhaps religions, or creating your own religions, however it might manifest. Now, with all of that being said, probably travel is going to be a huge theme for you guys in your lives. Like I mentioned, if you guys aren't able to go travel, then it will be people from foreign places coming to you, because it is through these experiences you really, really can learn a lot about how other people think, about how other people live, their belief systems, and all these wonderful things. And through their belief systems, you guys once again are formulating your own. So that's kind of like the pendulum swing with Pluto in the 9th house. It really is all about developing some form of a new belief system. Now, with that being said, if you guys are interested, let's say in higher education and higher learning, obviously depends on the rest of your natal chart, but you guys might be interested, let's say, in pursuing academia with this placement, where it's like there's that one topic that you guys are researching, getting to the bottom of, getting to the root of that particular thing. This could also definitely take place for Pluto in the 9th house, as it is that obsessive energy. So it's kind of like wherever anybody has Pluto in their natal chart, you go through this intensity of the energy until you do neutralize in the middle. And it's like Scorpionic energy can be obsessive. Usually when it's in the shadow, it's going to be obsessive over negative things or fears or paranoias. You might even have fears about traveling, for example, when you have Pluto in the 9th house. Or there could even be fears of your belief system, let's say, being deconstructed. It could be all these things that are coming to the surface for you to basically clear, purge, and transmute, kind of get that out of your system to get into some form of divine version of, let's say, whatever belief system you guys have. Now, with that being said, because it is generational and it is a generational planet, it could be something that was maybe traveling through the family line. Maybe there were doubts within the family line when it came to certain belief systems, but nobody acted on it, and then it got to you, and maybe you're the one now who is kind of seeing through things, whereas people before didn't want to see it, especially in terms of like religious and like indoctrination in that way a lot of the time. For a lot of religions, it's kind of like, don't ask questions, don't seek outside your faith, like everything we tell you is right. Don't question it is a big theme in a lot of religions. So you guys might be the ones that come through and you question it, but you could go through this internal crisis because maybe it was something that was like really taught throughout the family line to not question it. And it's like maybe for a period of time, you might be living a double life as well. That's something that can take place for Plutonian energy overall, wherever anybody has Pluto in their natal chart, because it's like Scorpio is hidden, and it can be hidden in the sense where it's like you might not express this part of yourself. Let's say maybe you are with your family and maybe you're continuing to practice maybe whatever religion that's taking place within the household, but there could be this other aspect of you that's like outside of that, completely not agreeing with it and just doing your own thing. But like eventually what happens with this energy, like overall Plutonian Scorpionic, it's like the worlds eventually become too far apart where it's like you can't really live, let's say, in secret anymore or hiding anymore or like a double life anymore. Like the whole thing with Scorpionic energy, and it's interesting because it's like Scorpio tries to be hidden sometimes, especially when it's in its lower version, Scorpio Plutonian energy. And it's like a lot of the time, like what happens, especially right now, because like the frequency of the planet is going higher and higher into like the higher vibrations, what happens is like because it's trying to be hidden, it ends up getting exposed. And that's like the worst thing for a Scorpionic person to take place. So obviously everyone has their own journey with all these things of when you're eventually going to come into the light with these types of things. But eventually the overall karma for wherever there is Pluto in your natal chart is to bring these things to the surface, to have them be a part of who you are overall, because it could be something that maybe you guys spent a lot of time repressing, or like I mentioned, like that split that starts to take place where it's like maybe you're doing it in secret or in private and you're not exposing it to the rest of the world. Now that's not to say to like go off on the rooftops and like scream these things, although Pluto in the ninth house could get to that extreme. You guys could absolutely get to that point. That's what I mean by that pendulum swinging. Like it could be extreme like hidden energy about this, and then it could be like extreme preaching energy about this, and then eventually like the most like divine version I would say of Scorpio Plutonian energy is eventually when you get to that neutral point where you're calm. There's just like this like calm confidence about you where it's like you're just like strong in who you are as an individual. You don't have to prove anything to anybody, you don't have to prove anybody wrong, and these types of things. So that's kind of like the Phoenix rising state. So you guys are going through this journey, this internal Scorpionic change, catharsis, turmoil journey, death, rebirth journey, transformational journey, to eventually get to this neutral point of the Phoenix rising. And for you guys, it is in all ninth house like things. So higher mind, higher learning, philosophies, belief systems, learning, and then teaching. So this energy could be a very good teacher eventually when you guys do get into that neutral point. Maybe you guys share and tell people about your own internal journey and struggles in this particular area. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here on Pluto in the ninth house. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.